All right, everybody. My name is Cathy. I'm an addict. I got this nice selfie. My hair looks good.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. So, little confusion. I thought that this was going to be a women's meeting, but I guess it's okay that it's not. You know, I'm just giving you the information I was given, so whatever. Okay, so I was going to do a little research, like I wouldn't know what woman in recovery is, right? That's a funny thing, right? Maybe I'll get my basic text and look. Those are my thoughts. So I'll qualify real quick. My clean date. I came to Narcotics Anonymous first in May of 1987, and my clean date is September 23rd, 1987. I have not used any mind, mood altering substance that would jeopardize me losing my clean time. What that means for me is that I have gone through a lot of things in the last 32 plus years that has caused a great deal of pain, and the most happiness I have also experienced in these rooms, and have not made a decision to give that away. So I'll do a little, I'll tell you a little bit about myself so people after I share will know a little bit more about me than you do now, other than my name and my clean time. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I am one of 14 siblings, 9 boys and 5 girls. Mom and dad both were active alcoholics. We lived above a bar room in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and my dad drank until he died, and the state of New York came in and took us all out of the home. I don't remember too much. I think I might have been like maybe 3.5, 4 years old when this happened, but then we were given up to the state of New York, and we were institutionalized in a few different institutions up in Peekskill, New York, White Plains. And from there, I went into multiple foster homes throughout the Westchester County. And one was more horrific than the other. The one that I spent the most time in was the one that was the most horrific. I learned at a very, very young age on how to survive. Not how to live, but how to survive. How to really deal with making dysfunction very functionable. I would be abused on a Monday, and then we would sit down and have dinner on a Tuesday as a family. And as a child, those kind of things really never made any sense to me. So I started smoking cigarettes at a very young age. I was probably 8 or 9. I started drinking when I was probably 11 or 12. And I never had one drink. I never smoked one joint. I never took one pill. I never snorted one line. I never took one hit off a pipe. I never did one. Even at 11, 12, 13, 14 years old. I remember on a Friday night, we would get dropped off at the skating rink. That was a big thing. I'm going to start to show my age, but we would go to the roller skating rink, and we'd get dropped off, and I would never make it inside, and we'd pool all our money together to get Tango and Quaaludes and Trumanols, and I was really a child screaming for help, but nobody saw it. So drugs and alcohol really worked to protect all the heartache that was going on in my life. I was taken out of my last foster home, met my siblings. I'm really like trying to wrap up, 32 plus years in I don't know, 40, 25 minutes. So I'm gonna fast forward. But so I leave, the state takes me out of this foster home, thank God, because really someone finally believed me when I said what was going on. And I then meet my biological family, my alcoholic mother, my alcoholic brothers, my drug addict brother. So here I am, 14, 15 years old, and my brother's robbing money from my mother, and my mother's, calling the cops on her sons, and somewhere in the middle, I figured out how to fit in with all that dysfunction. And my brother lived upstairs from my mom in Brooklyn, and he let us, me and my other brother, take over the apartment, and we were just a mess at a very, very young age. No supervision. I was supposed to be going to school. I didn't go to school. I had a sister that had been adopted after my dad had died, and she lived in a small town in Massachusetts. So because I wasn't going to school and I was abusing Quaaludes and drinking and just really a really sad existence for a teenager. They thought it was a good idea that they again moved me to Massachusetts, and that's how I ended up in Massachusetts. So I spent all of my recovery journey up until 4 months ago in Southeastern Mass, Narcotics Anonymous. And why I say that is because I left an area that I remember going to the first area meeting, sitting in a basement at 6 months clean because we were part of Rhode Island and Southeastern Mass decided we were going to have our own area. And so when they said, you're going to move to Massachusetts, I was like, all right, I had moved. I just told you my story. I moved everywhere. They told me I'm moving from this house to this house to this house. So moving was not an issue for me. And I got off this. So now I'm in New York, right? Everything's big. And I go to Massachusetts and they tell me my sister is going to be at the bus station. And the bus station consisted of this blue trailer in a downtown city, they called it. And I didn't see it as being a city, but I made some real poor decisions. They said it's a huge fishing industry. They said you should really try not to get involved with that kind of lifestyle and fishermen and fishing boats. And I didn't listen, and I got involved with a fisherman, and I had a child from him. And again, I was caught up in now, selling cocaine from my house. And, he would come in from fishing and we would buy things. And 5 days later, we would sell everything we bought because I was always good at putting some away for later. And that later was the same day. I was talking to my daughter last weekend about that. We bought this fudge, right? Because it comes out in all areas. So we bought this fudge, and she's like, "Put this fudge away for later." And I had this flashback of what it was like to put the spoon in the bag and put it on the third shelf in the kitchen, so I could have it for later. And I don't know where that all came from, but yeah, that's what my daughter's in recovery now, so she gets it. But so here I am, running around chasing fishing boats and fishermen, and I can't really continue to function. There's a piece in our literature that says, we can't live with or without drugs. We have lost that ability, and that's exactly what happened to me. I became so paranoid from smoking cocaine that I could not communicate anymore. I would line beer cans in front of my door in case someone came in. I would have the shades down. I would pull little holes in it just so I could see outside at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Who's outside at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning? That's what I did. So, I really was paranoid all the time. And, the resources, and I'm sure most of everybody that's sitting in this room, the resources that were around 30 plus years ago are not the resources that are around today. So I really had to work. Like I had to go to the local bar room and use the payphone that the bartender would give me quarters so I could call this treatment center every single day at 2 o'clock. Because I went to see this woman and she said, do you have a drug or alcohol problem? And I said, I don't think so. I think there's really something really wrong with me. And she said, well, I'm going to send you down the street and I want you to go see this person. I went down and come to find out it was the clinic that was in the city at the time behind this big, they called it towers. And I went behind and I walked in and this gentleman said, I'm going to give you this number and I think it may be a good idea for you to get an evaluation done. And, who wants to be paranoid and lose the ability to communicate with people? I knew there was definitely something wrong with me, so I gave it a shot. So I called this guy and he said, you're going to call this place every single day at this time. And that's what I did. I went to the local bar room that I drank at down the south end of New Bedford, and they said, okay, we have a bed for you. We're going to come and pick you up. Now they picked me up. The driver came and picked me up, and I was paranoid because I told you I was paranoid most of the time from smoking cocaine. So I'm asking this guy, like, where are you bringing me? What kind of place is this? Is there bars on the window? So we get there, it starts to snow. And it snows, and it snows, and it snows. It's April of 1987. This area had gotten hit with the biggest blizzard since the blizzard of 78. And I'm driving, I'm like, oh my God. So then they bring me in, they do the evaluation, and they tell me, okay,
I found this on the web.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I need that. So I go there with no expectations, just that if I could really explain to you how paranoid I was. But I don't really think that I really need to do that because I think all of us that are in this room have felt that way more times than we would like to really admit. So they put me in this room across from the nurse's station and they say to me, you're going to stay here for a few weeks. This is what I remember. Because, also clean time, your memory starts to be a little vaguer than it was, say, 30 plus years ago. So I go through this treatment center and it's 2.5 weeks and they give me a meeting list. And the guy, I remember like it was yesterday, the guy says to me, he circles them. So where do you live? He circles the meetings in Southeastern Mass. So there's a meeting here on a Thursday night, there's a meeting here on a Saturday night, there's a meeting here on a Sunday night. You think you can go to these meetings? I said, yeah, I think I can go to these meetings. Gives me the meeting list, I sign my completion, and I leave. And they bring me back to New Bedford. And I went to my first meeting, and there was a greeter at the door. I'm going to say some real key information, because I don't know if this stuff gets lost through the years, but things that I remember that saved my ass. There was a greeter at the door, and he said, welcome. And I walked down the basement, and the lights weren't on because it was a candlelight meeting. And I sat in the back, and they asked if anybody was new, and I raised my hand, and they gave out key tags, and I went and got my white key tag. And I remember that meeting like it was yesterday. And then, my journey started. I didn't stay here. I was still involved with that fisherman, and I would relapse, and I would come back, and I was belligerent and rude and angry, and everybody in the rooms would say, just keep coming. And I was even angry that you guys said that to me, because I didn't really understand it. So it took about 6 months for me to end up back in treatment. And I want to just talk about the last time I used before I talk about my recovery journey. The last weekend I used was pre-calculated. I had given up on Narcotics Anonymous. I had said, this may work for you, this is not working for me. I left my car in front of a place that I knew that I was going to be back to. I went in and I could have cared less what happened to me. And I remember that feeling of just completely giving up and saying, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to try and figure out, let me go to one more meeting, get one more key tag, and listen to one more person say how great life is. It's my life. You know, in that 6 months, I didn't really lose anything outside, but internally, I was like slowly dying. You know, I had, you know, the fishing industry in New Bedford is a very, you can make a lot of money, and there was a lot of money that came into my house. So I had things. My story is that I didn't come in here with nothing. I had things. I could have sold more things. I sold things that meant the world to me and made excuses. There's a question in our step working guide that says, give a plausible reason why we did some of the things we did. So I would sell my jewelry and tell them I didn't really want it. I love jewelry. I don't know why I told that guy I didn't like it or I didn't need it, but that's what I said. So now I'm back in treatment, and the girl that I had used with was clean. I called her. I said, you know, what do I do? She's like, well, you know, when is enough going to be enough? And then that was another day that, you know, for that moment, when she asked me that on the Sunday, when I had started my journey of destruction on a Friday, I came home with no shoes on my feet, and it was raining, and I left someone's house in someone's bed. Until this day, I don't know where I was and who I was with. So it sounded like a pretty good idea. When was enough going to be enough? So I was like, well, what do you think I should do? And she said, I think you should go back to treatment. And I really didn't have a lot of options. I think, you know, again, you know, people are much more fortunate today. When I tell you I didn't have a lot of options, I didn't have a lot of options. What was I going to do? So I took her suggestion. I said, I'm going to, you know, I called up the treatment center, and they took me back in. It was a Wednesday afternoon. And I was in treatment for 4 days. And the fisherman that I had lived with and, you know, was slowly self-destructing, had come in from fishing on a Friday, and he overdosed and died in my house on a Sunday. And, you know, they were amazing in treatment. They let me leave. They let me go to his funeral. They let me go to his wake. And they let me go back to treatment, which really, I look back at things that have happened in my life in the last 32 plus years, is that really the God of my understanding has really taken care of me. I truly believe that, because I don't know if they've done that since, but I'm glad they did it with me. I'm glad that they said I could go back. I'm glad that they let me stay. When I left, I had like 35 days clean. And I had just buried a guy that I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with. So here I am. I got a 4.5-year-old little boy. I have, you know, a boyfriend that I had just went to his service, and I wasn't like, you know, our key tags say clean and serene. I say this all the time when I share. I don't know who created those freaking key tags, because anybody that's new, I don't know where clean and serene comes from. I was definitely clean. I was, you know, abstinent from all drugs, but I definitely was not serene. I was angry and bitter and frustrated and wanted answers. And people had enough patience for me that they allowed me to feel whatever I was feeling. And what happens to me when I share, and I wanted to say this before I started, to protect myself, and I've done it at a very young age, I go to like this intellect place, so I don't have to emotionally get vulnerable. People get up here and they get emotionally vulnerable, and that is something that I really, even after all these years, wish that I could adhere to, because you know, I have stopped tears when tears really would have healed me. And so I don't really know what that's all about either, but it's probably how I protect myself. So my journey in Narcotics Anonymous in the last 32 years have been, at the very least, not boring. Definitely not boring. And I've had 2 more children, met my husband of almost, married 28 years, been together 31. I'm 32 years clean, so, you know, we met early in recovery. He was in a halfway house. I'm not promoting my, you know, go line up outside a halfway house and you'll find your husband. I'm telling my story. And I say that because you know, when we present each other, we tell our story and people go, wow, that could happen to me. I don't know if that can happen to you. I know that we have gone through a lot of stuff in 30 years. And maybe if we would have waited, maybe we wouldn't have, but we did. So here we are, right? So, so he's in a halfway house. I got this little boy. I got about, you know, I don't know, 15, 16 months clean. And I'm on, you know, subsidy housing. He's working 2 days a week in a halfway house. And we're going to conquer this together, you know? And, you know, we've done a really good job. And I think the reason why we've done a really good job is because we've stayed grounded in Narcotics Anonymous. This really comes first in really a lot of our decisions. Southeastern Mass, and the only reason why I continue to talk about Southeastern Mass is because it really saved my life. That's the area that I came from. It's not the area that I belong to now. I belong to an area called Peace River area. It's part of the Safrikna Regional, part of the Florida state, which I'm happy to report that I live in Florida today. And there's palm trees and sunshine, and it's not cold like it's cold here. It's only been for a few short months, but I will tell you, I don't ever see me moving back up to New England, ever, ever. So, yeah, so my journey is sponsorship and trying to, you know, not say words like kindness and compassion and love and forgiveness, and then leaving here and saying everybody's an asshole. Because you can't do both. I can't say that I really want to be kind and then leave here and say that, you know, everybody sucks. They don't go hand in hand. Spiritual principles and shoplifting, they don't go hand in hand. I've been arrested at 7.5 years in recovery for shoplifting. New Year's Eve. Babies in strollers. I had 2 more children since I've been here. Have to call the husband. He's got to come and bail me out. Not something I wanted part of my NA resume. Not a good day. That was definitely not a good day. You know, I've had jobs, great jobs I've walked away from. Successful career with management. Now I work with people just like us, trying to figure out how they're going to stop using and how they're going to put their lives together. People often say, oh, I work in the field. I don't work in any field. I don't do that. What I do is I try and meet people where they're at so I can help them, just like we do here. We meet people where they're at. I don't want to ever be the reason why somebody doesn't come back to meetings. I don't want to be that person. I want to be able to say, if you're new and you're a female, I will help you. If you're new and you're a male, my husband will help you. Because that is really what I'm supposed to be doing after 32 years. I'm supposed to be helping people. I'm not supposed to, I mean, yeah, shit happens in my life. I found this really great meeting. It meets on Monday night. I have a home group. It's not Monday night, but I found this great meeting. It's meets on Monday night right near the ocean, and and people share about the stuff that's going on in their lives today. Like, I have to be able to come into Narcotics Anonymous and say, my daughter has just found out that she's having a baby, and things, she has a lot of uncertainty. My son lives in California. He too was in treatment 4.5 years ago, and he makes really poor decisions still. Doesn't use, but makes poor decisions. My oldest lives not too far from here with his family. He too makes some not so good decisions. But we're all trying, none of us in this room make good decisions every single day. And if you do, you got to come and grab me after the meeting, because I need to know how you do that. Because I still, after all this time, make poor decisions. Finances. Let's talk about finances for a minute. So, we come down here and we're going to do, so, it's too long really to get into, but my husband and I, we're going to do this thing together. I always did my thing, he did his thing, and it worked. Now we're doing it together. So now I have not only my eyes on stuff, I have my husband's eyes on stuff. And I'm not saying this lightly, but the disease of addiction manifests itself in all areas. I love pocketbooks. I love shoes. I love pocketbooks. I love shoes. I like shopping on Marketplace. I love shopping on Marketplace. I can't come in here and talk to you about me smoking coke for the last 3 days and I'm paranoid because I'm clean for over 32 years. But I can say that I drive by TJ Maxx and Home Goods and they talk to me. And I have to constantly say, not today. That's how my disease manifests itself. Or I'll buy something and I go, oh, well, that's not really what I thought it would look like. I'll have to buy something else. And I heard this woman years ago talk about her obsession with boots. And she'd be in the bathroom, married to another recovering addict, in the bathroom, or trying to order these boots. So her husband wouldn't hear her talk about ordering these boots. And I don't want to be that person. I don't want to have to, hide packages throughout my house because I have a problem. So it's constant vigilance. And if I don't have a home group, I have a home group, Surrender to Win, meets on Sunday night. If I don't have my sponsor that I talk to, I've used my sponsor more now in the last 4 months than I probably have in the last, say 10 years. Because the transition, leaving an area that I knew everybody. I knew people. I knew the activities we put on. I knew the conventions. And now I'm at an area that I'm new. I'm new to the area. And I have to be open-minded to the way other people do things. And sometimes I'm not so willing because we don't do it like that. And I want to say that. We don't do it like that. You guys do this. We don't do it like that. So really, it's this journey that I have been on has been, Narcotics Anonymous really, people say it saved their life. Narcotics Anonymous really gave me a life. I was open-minded enough to take suggestions. Someone said to me, you need to go to that meeting and open that meeting when I was new, and you need to do this. I did it. And if someone said that to me today, like the meeting that we joined as our home group, I was home. And, my husband came home and he said that meeting needs help. And we showed up the following week and we said that we would help. And if I'm not helping somebody, then I'm not helping myself. And I really, really mean that. I tell one of my closest friends, it's nice to, help people, and this is, disclaimer, this is my story. You can buy them, you see someone struggle and they need, a sandwich, or they need a jacket, or they need a pair of shoes. And, we've been really, really blessed. My husband and I have been blessed beyond my comprehension on how this all happened. Like, I get to live in Florida now, so that is amazing in itself. But I say, just me, that if someone says to me that they need help, I'm going to really find out how I can help them. And that may mean needing a ride to a meeting. That may mean that they don't have any food in their refrigerator. That may mean that they're getting on the verge of getting evicted, and they may need help how to keep their apartment. And if I'm not open to hear that message come from them, then I'm not doing my part in Narcotics Anonymous. And that may not be someone else's story. That is definitely my story. I am into helping people and changing lives, because I came in here, I was 24, and people had tolerance for me when I was intolerable. High hair, short skirts, and high heels. That's how I came to every single meeting. That's how I did groceries. That's how I went to church. That's how, if I woke up, those were the shoes that were on the side of my bed. I had high heels in every single one of every color that there was to have. And I don't think I really own any high heel shoes anymore. Little ones like this. You know? But yeah, so in closing, the only thing I really, really want to, emphasize is that the ability to be present and be able to help and nurture and care for the young women that are coming in here that need our help. That was going to be my focus point, because I was lost when I got here. And there were a few select women that took time to say, go to treatment. You can come and stay at my house. You can have Christmas with me. You can do this. You can go for that job. I'll help you fill out the application. I didn't have a lot of skills when I got here. And I'm just really, really, really fortunate to have found a place that I can come to with all that stuff that went on and have survived, because I have family members. There were 14 of us, and in the last 10 years, 7 of my siblings have died. And that most of them have died from addiction or some form or another due to addiction. And that will not be my story. There's way too much, I got way too much shit still to do. I have dreams and hopes and, beyond my wildest dream. They say, oh, my life is second to none. I don't really know what that means. I hear people say that for years. I know that this is nothing that I could have ever imagined. So when they, asked me, my friend was coming, and I was like, wow, that sounds like a really cool thing to do. And, this is not my coming up here and sharing. I think there may be like 2 CDs out there, me floating around for 30-something years. But I really do like a one-on-one. If you need help and you want to grab me after me, I'll help. I'll sit and I'll listen and talk and make new friends, and we'll figure this shit out on how we're all going to get better. Because I don't ever want to be that young, frightened 24-year-old losing the ability to communicate because I can't stop doing cocaine and drinking and destroying my life like some of my family members did. That's not going to be my story. I have grandchildren and children and people that I love in Narcotics Anonymous. The last chapter in our Living Clean book talks about love. And if you haven't read it, I suggest that you read it. It's a great, great chapter in our Living Clean book. And it talks about the unconditional love that we have for each other through our diversities, through the anger and the bitterness and the broken relationships here in the halls, because that shit happens in the halls. People upset us, they get a resentment. You do a 4th step one year, you're not talking to them the next. That's what happens. So love that chapter. It's one of my favorite chapters in all the literature that we have. So I want to thank them for asking me, the committee to ask me to share, and I think that's it. Thanks.
Thank you.